Ladies and gentlemen, I am back with the greatest lady I've ever known. I'm just kidding. That's a heavy title. Where with my good friend Bahia Askri, who if you've seen the last video, uh, it was really great. We had a great conversation, and she's back again for another. We're going to continue on from where we left off. I'm sure we're going to do many of these videos, but this is the celebration machine. If you've never been here before, you randomly clicked on this video because you're interested in healing and all that kind of stuff, but from a no bullshit perspective. Welcome. I'm Peter. My guest today is the powerful Bahia Askri. Bahia, welcome.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having me back so quickly. I feel like uh it's I feel like it's really nice when we have these conversations and we're able to just kind of be ourselves. And like one, it's one way for us to like reconnect and get
Yeah,
to catch up into each other's lives. And two, it's kind of like the seed that we planted over 5 years ago has now
right.
like bloomed, you know?
Yes.
That
Yes.
whole idea and notion. And I know that before hitting record, we shared that we're going to bring into this space of authenticity. And if we were to start this discussion on authenticity based on that, you can see how when two people are living authentically, we don't we allow for right timing or when flow or when there's a convergence of energy instead of forcing or wanting to make something happen even though the timing of it might be off. There, I feel like our connection has always been authentic in the sense that you showed up as you were, I showed up as I was. um, and even though we had ideas about creational things that wanted to take place, our own authenticity couldn't bring us to that point until this moment. And
Agreed.
I feel like this is a great conversation for us to have,
Yeah.
for people to for the listeners, let's say that for the listeners to feel like, right, if I stay true to myself and I follow the natural rhythm and timing of my own internal process, if something's meant to be, if it's going to align, when that energy is like, it kind of, I don't know why I'm doing this, but it like wants me to show it. Like when it does this, like two energies that come together and then take the path. That happens in our field of energy around us. There's just this feeling where you could be sitting there going, what's Pete up to these days?
Yeah.
What's happening? You know? And then
Yeah.
and what created that was your celebration machine. So like you bringing yourself into like that authentic expression then allowed for me to meet you there, and now together we can um pick up on that seed where it was left off. Does that make sense what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
And authenticity is kind of where, I mean, we discussed it before we pressed record, but I really want to get into it because I think it's really relevant for what's happening in the world today, and being authentic. Let's just kind of back it up a little bit. Because again, part of this, the reason I wanted to do this podcast and make these videos is that, like I've told you before, there's a lot of people in the spiritual space, and I don't even know if this is necessarily going to become a spiritual podcast, but I like talking about, spirituality and but applying it through the sort of the blue collar lens or through more of a practical lens and filter, and make it more accessible, because oftentimes the language does turn people off, and or they don't feel included because the language is different. But I think we all understand the word authenticity, but authenticity, what when it, how would you describe authenticity, like in a practical way? What does authenticity look like
Mm.
in life, like when you are living in an authentic way? Give me your idea of what that looks like.
Okay. um I want to just close my eyes, put hand on heart, because I feel like a lot of times when we just go right into speaking, we're up
Yeah.
here. And so a
Okay.
little practice that I do and I'll often do is just take a moment, put a hand on my heart, and I close my eyes and I just kind of focus my breathing into my heart space.
I'll do
So
that
that,
with you.
okay. So if we place hand on heart, we close our eyes and let's just take a few intentional breaths into the heart. And when I exhale, I'm just feeling like my body relaxing. I'm letting my body know like we're safe in this moment, all is well. And that's when I begin to feel that it's like a subtle movement of energy inside of me that goes, hey, here we are, we're engaging together. And that's where I feel my authentic expression lives. So when I just am able to connect to my heart, feel the subtle movement of energy in my body, and I just bring in that connection of safety, then I can kind of open my eyes. And now I trust that I'm speaking from the heart. So there's less like mental pressure to figure something out.
Hmm.
And then that authentic expression. So if I were to define authenticity, it's this feeling of safety within myself to express how and what I feel, what I perceive, what the values and the way in which I perceive the world. There's a safety in me being able to be genuine and allow myself to relax into like who I truly am, which really when I is undefined. Like I go by Bahia undefined for a purpose, and that might be another conversation. But it's the ability for me to show up where I'm at in any given moment. And that could be wearing different hats. You know, we talked
Yeah.
about the me having that engineering brain, and then I have this very intuitive brain. And now I'm exploring creativity. So I've been writing music and recording podcasts and using my voice and exploring with writing. So there are so many different facets of us, but I feel like the authenticity is what allows for those different parts to come out and express themselves. But if I use a contrast to that, I the version of me pre 2013, she would have thought she was being authentic, but she was also conditioned and was under the pressure of people pleasing. So there were still masks. There was still this connection to my value and my worth is tied into how I show up for other. So once that piece kind of dissolved a bit, what I started to notice is, whoa, there's like way more happening in here. Like there's a voice inside of me that can share when she is disappointed or upset, or if she doesn't agree with another opinion. And there, I can hold true to myself and know that, oh, then, hold true to myself that, it's okay for me to have my own authentic expression. Whereas before
Yeah.
that would have terrified me. So there would have
Yeah.
been more of a, how can I best show up with this group of people, like at work, for example, at home with the family, in my social setting, with people I don't know? How can I impress? So what facade? But I still, in my
Mm.
in my level of consciousness, thought I was still being Bahia. But it still had this connection to, but how is other perceiving me? But in my authentic expression, I'm just like, this is me. So you're
Yeah.
either in or you're out, and that's okay. Like I can recognize I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Uh,
And authenticity, I mean, the word gets thrown around a lot, but you brought up a lot of good points, Bahia, and it's like, we're both recovering people pleasers. And, that at the core of people pleasing is oftentimes somebody that was managing other people's emotions
mhm.
and thereby, if I want to use a fancy word, thereby put those people's emotions above their own. And then you sometimes get disconnected from yourself or you put your own feelings second. So then now you're an adult operating in the world, and you're going around trying to make everybody else feel all right at the expense of your own feelings. And then sometimes you make choices, that can build anger, and that can build resentment, and that is oftentimes turned towards yourself when you're just acting out on a conditioning, right? So this is such a deep space to get into, this whole authenticity thing and people pleasing and just how we operate and navigate the world, especially since we live in a world of social media where you're exposed to a multitude of people living in a multitude of ways. And especially if you're a young person trying to find your way or trying to find who you are, that can be incredibly distracting and intimidating and depressing, as well as inspiring. And you might see somebody online, and you're like, wow, something really resonates. And again, to slow it down and talk about the language we use I'm not trying to diminish anyone's capacity of understanding, but if you're new to this whole spirituality thing, or if you're digging into life a little deeper, I love to hear that you started with the hand on the heart thing. Pete 10 years ago would have been like, fuck, okay, let's put our hand on our heart. Because I really would have had a problem with that. You know what I mean? I'd be like, that's so fucking cheesy. But man, like, it's important. So to bring it right back to just how you started it, because I could feel I was in my head thinking about what questions I want to ask, and I'm like, we're both kind of like, you could feel it was really mental, right? And then you
Hmm.
you put the pause on it because you're Bahia and you know this shit really well, and you brought me and hopefully whoever's watching this, if they did this by themselves, there's something beautiful about just putting your hand on your heart, and then just closing your eyes and settling down into the body and into the heart, because we live in our heads a lot. So I love that you did that, because I could feel sort of the ride slow down,
Yeah.
and I could feel you slowing us down.
Hmm.
And then it it helps put us, like, it's easier to make decisions if you can feel them almost more than you're thinking about them, like when your body
Absolutely.
tells you. And I know you're familiar with Bashar, right? Like following your highest excitement, all that sort of thing. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest, Luna. Welcome to the show, Luna, the beautiful Luna. But so just getting in touch with the body, and especially, like, when we talked about, if you haven't seen the other video, Bahia and I both been through the cancer experience as patients, and and it's a great opportunity to get to know your body. You know what I mean? Like, how it functions, because we ride around in these things and we really don't know how they work. I mean, we have an idea of how they work, but for the most part, we really don't. So
Hmm.
there's that opportunity to figure out the body, but also to get comfortable in the body, and to realize that there's something going on in terms of body and spirit, mind, body, spirit. So when we're talking about authenticity, just learning how to get into your body and listen to your body and pay attention is super important. And where do we learn how to do that? I don't remember being in kindergarten or in school and having a teacher or a parent say, like, I mean, my mother told me about intuition and stuff, thankfully, but we really aren't taught how to be in these bodies. We're
Hmm.
taught how to follow orders and become good little citizens and factory workers, but we're not really taught how to use this incredible tool, this instrument that we ride around in, that takes all these
Words.
readings and gets us feedback, right? So can you talk a little bit more about, like, being in the body, right? Because I love that you're an engineer, but you're also, I mean, you're this spiritual warrior trying to, help us all understand this spiritual side of things. But I love that it always comes from this. Like, you last time you were talking about, we had light bodies, and so let's talk about, like, how we experience the world,
Mm.
but starting from the body. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. And I want to go back to, before I answer that, like, I want to go back into, like, in the school systems, or even
Yeah.
in, it, I want to use the word conditioning. Like, we've been conditioned to follow uh, uh, an institution, a set of programming. And we do that in that school setting day in and day out, where we're negated to trust or feel into a space. And I feel like that's changing in school settings. Like now they have circle talk and meditation time. So I do feel like there's there's an evolutionary upswing, like we're kind of shifting in
Mm-hmm.
how we connect to the body. And I feel like a lot of that came with um, this bringing of yoga into North America, into this more cultural platform. Now, there's always going to be two sides to something. In this world, we will always be polarized in our perspective and beliefs. Some people might feel like, oh, this was a beautiful thing. It brought people into the body. Other people might be like, we're, appropriate. It's, it belongs to a sacred um, culture, and we've made it into this commercialized thing. What I want, and this is where authenticity comes in. What is your intention with something? What
Mm-hmm.
is the connection that you have? Is it coming from a heart, from a place of purity? Or is it coming from this mental projection of conditioning and culture? And what does it look like versus what does it feel like? So our physical bodies are there. It's a sensory avatar. We're meant to
Mm-hmm.
move through the world as emotional beings. It You can look at advertising as an example. How do they get us? Through the emotion, through the heart. Most commercials,
Yeah.
they're like there to get into our emotional centers. And
Yeah.
so if we were in environments where there wasn't safety in that, like if safety was missing in our emotional expression, if the temper tantrum was short lived, or there was punishment, or, you know, there was an inability for us to be able to play in our emotions at a young age, we will learn to suppress. And so a form of suppression then starts to pull us further and further and further out of the body. So then now all of our energy is focused up here. And now we're like, oh my God, if I do this, what's going to happen? And then we just get caught in loops. So we lose access to the authentic nature inside of us, which is intrinsic. Like you look at me, I'm like sitting here, I'm using my arms, I'm moving. That's my authentic
Yeah.
expression. And my family, they
Yeah.
love to, you know, make jokes like, oh, Bahia's talking now. And she's just like moving her arms. But uh, that is me, like feeling the energy around me and expressing it not only through words, but, I'm taking this feeling that I have, and my hands are animating it and making it something that I know I'm connected to, like on all levels.
Yeah.
What does
No,
that
I
feel
get
like?
that. And sometimes you physically move energy too around, like it's weird because it's like your body. I remember, um, I remember making the connection for the first time that I was like, that there was like this body was not really me. Um, when they went to take some bone marrow when they were doing the exploratory side of or phase of the cancer treatment, and they went into my hip to take some bone marrow out, and it's a procedure. I don't know if they did that to you, but like you're awake, and they go in through my hip, and he snaps a little piece of bone off
Ooh,
to get access to the marrow, and then he goes in with a needle and he sucks out the marrow, and he says you're going to feel like you're being pulled inside out, and that's exactly what it felt like. But I remember when he grabbed my hip with that tool, whatever, it's like a very surgical pair of pliers or whatever the hell it was, to snip a little piece of bone off. I remember him wiggling my bone, like my hip, the skeletal, the actual bone, and I could feel like my skeleton moving inside my meat. Whereas before I always felt like one thing. And I remember my brain going, holy shit, like I'm a whole, and this was like in a flash of insight. It was like, you are a complete, uh, like you are all these systems working together
yeah.
including like your nervous system, your veins, your muscles, your skeletal frame, like all these different parts that you could lay out separately, literally in a room on a table, but then being driven by this thing that's experiencing it all. And I used to think that my spirit lived in my body, contained, and when you died, it popped out. But now I think that everything is your soul. Like you are living like within your soul, as opposed to, a spirit or a soul in a body. You're a body and a soul. That's kind of where I'm at now. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I'll find out when it's my time. But the whole thing was, it blew my mind, and it opened my mind up to something bigger, into bigger concepts, and it made me feel less claustrophobic in the experience. Because I don't know about you, but I felt very trapped in my body when I was going through the cancer experience.
Yeah.
So I was just saying that, I felt very claustrophobic in the body, and that caused a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic. But after I got that hip wiggling experience where they pulled the marrow out and I felt like I was pulled inside out, I realized that there's a lot going on in this human experience, and I'm not this body. And for a split second, it kind of scared me because, again, you said something important. We're taught to follow, right? But we're
Mm-hmm.
not taught to follow our own instincts. We're
Mm-mm.
taught to follow orders, right? Put your hand up if you got to pee in school. Put your hand up if you got something to say. Ask for permission. Ask for permission all the time, right? Stand here, do this, don't do that. We're not taught to be integrating, like, we're not taught to really understand what this body is meant to do and what our spirits are meant to do. But I
Yeah.
really feel like we're on the cusp of all that collapsing,
Mm-hmm.
like and I don't ever want to scare people, but I really believe we're in a period where old systems are collapsing so we can really become the species that we're capable of becoming. To me,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very positive. You know, when you think about what collapsing systems means, it terrifies people to think, end of the world, destruction, all this shit. And I don't see that. But worlds do, like a part of like your world when you were diagnosed with cancer. When you go through your divorce, your world does collapse.
It
Like
dies.
your
The old
worlds are
life
ending
dies.
all the
Yes.
time, right?
Yeah.
Worlds end. Someone's world is ending right now.
Yeah.
Like anything that's traumatic or hard or difficult or different, your world's going to end 1,000 times, right? Everything is going to fall apart multiple times throughout your life because that's what we're here to do. It's just that we're not taught to lead or follow from the inside out or live from the inside out. It's all outside in. And I think that's where the problem is because if we're always taking direction from the outside, meaning how am I supposed to be? Well, I'm going to, I was told to be this way. You're told by your parents to be a certain way. You're told by your teachers to be a certain way. You're told by authority figures to be a certain way, governments, whatever. But very few people take the opportunity. And that's just the power in sickness or in disease, right? Disease, as we all say. You get to sit in a quiet place and go, holy shit, I have no clue what this is all about. And that can be terrifying. And it's also super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, uh, when you were touching on the follow thing, like it's super important. And again, going back to like how you led from the body, it's I think that that's where we're headed. And maybe that's why I got pushed to do this podcast, to have these conversations with people like you that can bridge, the spiritual with the practical, for lack of a better term or word. And I was, throughout COVID and all that did feel like the world was ending, and it did feel like that things were, like really out of control. But now I'm very excited, and I don't want to say I look forward to the collapse of things, but I want to experience the next level of human consciousness, but like with friends, not just by yourself. Like spirituality is oftentimes uncomfortable because you're just by yourself with this shit, or you're trying to talk to people about it and it doesn't always work. And it's very personal. It's very intimate. And then you meet people like you where you click, and my wife and just like, holy shit, like we're on the same frequency here. And again, there's another word, frequency. Like you're vibrating. Take two tuning forks. If they're different frequencies, they're going to be there's going to be dissonance. But when they resonate, right? And that's what you kind of look for. Why aren't we taught that when we're kids? Why aren't, I don't want to say why aren't we, but that shit is so important. Like to teach a child or a little kid or even an adult, hey man, if something feels weird, right? Whether you're talking to a stranger, like we've all had the stranger danger talk. And that's kind of like an entry point to talk about feelings. I think my mother, that's probably the first time, like when you're out waiting for the school bus or you're out, if you get a weird feeling or something doesn't feel right, get the hell out of there. And intention, like people say, well, why do, how come how come children get hurt and there's bad things in the world? Because I don't think the universe gives a shit about your feelings. It's your intentions. And if your intentions, good or bad, are coming from a very focused place, and you have all this good energy behind it, or all this positive forward moving energy in your own mind, I think that's what the universe responds to. Otherwise, there wouldn't be bad things. But
There's a
intention is important, right? Like,
there- yeah.
so dialing it into the body again, this whole frequency, and like it's like riding around in this instrument that gives you feedback, but then it's tied into this consciousness thing. So there's, I know I'm rambling, but it's the whole point of these conversations is trying. I'm not coming across as an expert. I know that I'm an explorer. So I really want to keep going about the way um, we're navigating the world physically, but like with that consciousness aspect tied in. And I know that's very vague, but do you know what I'm saying? Like we're not. I think we're coming into a place where people are starting to figure out like we're going to start to operate from a different place, and authenticity is a huge part of it. And
Hmm.
understanding what authenticity is understanding what's going on in your own heart, in your own body, mind, and spirit, and learning how to feel what authenticity feels like. What do you think it feels like when you're doing something authentic?
Everything feels calm. So like in in an authentic expression, there's this safety in trusting your movement, your flow, the way in which you enter a room, the way in which you hold yourself. Is there a level of comfort inside of you? If there, when you enter into a space and you're more concerned about what you're going to say and how it's going to be perceived, then, or what energy you bring into a place versus trusting that there's this natural synergy that takes place in groups, and that when we hold, and frequency is like you can use the analogy of a rainbow, or it's like a band, right? And so the lower frequencies, the base frequencies, are fear, shame, guilt, and then we can move
Yeah.
up into higher frequencies of gratitude and love and appreciation and joy. And as you move into higher vibrations, or sorry, higher frequencies, as that starts to emanate, move inside of you, and you can feel it and you live by that frequency, you'll naturally attract yourself to uh it's like meets like. Then I keep
Mhm.
doing this. what Whatever people need to, the purities I get
Yeah.
from this, but this is what's happening. So when I work with people, for example, and they keep sharing, like I held a boundary and I let go of this person and now I'm in this, but the same thing is coming up. And I'm like, okay, so you've identified a pattern, that you've
Hmm.
projected it outside of yourself, but that inner frequency lives inside of you. So I like to go in and just bring the emphasis back into, you know, feeling what we're seeing outside of us, bringing it back inside of us and going, where does this live inside of me? Because you your authentic expression comes from what's inside. So someone's authentic expression could be very rageful and angry because they're holding that energy inside. But society goes, whoa, that person's like so angry, you need to calm down, go do this stuff. So are we prepared in this world now, as we're evolving
Hmm.
for everyone all at once for their authentic expression to come out. We kind of need to build a structure to help guide this internal mutation. For me, it took over a decade to find it, to
Yeah,
feel
and I
safe in
mean,
it, to root in it.
if you're, let's say you're a really angry racist person, okay, you may really think that you're living your authentic self by in that expression because you might have been raised by angry, racist, fearful people, um, and so that conviction, which to other people looks completely insane, to that person might be 100%. They are feeling like I am being 100% true to myself and my God, or whatever. Like they walk that path with absolute conviction. But to other people, it comes off as obviously really harmful and crazy, you know. So, I guess it comes down to, well, what is the authentic path, right? Like, what is true authenticity? And I think it's not so much like authenticity in my world is you are true to yourself, but that might not be helpful if you are, in the business of harming people or coming from a place of fear where you feel like you need to eliminate person X in order to feel safe or vindicated. And it always comes down to safety. I think it always comes down to feeling uh,
But isn't that what's
comfortable in your
happening
world.
now, Pete? Like,
Yeah.
uh, we're seeing the all of the things that have been hidden. The the screen outside of us is now projecting out, like there's a lot of truth that's coming to the surface of ways in which certain people in power feel
Hmm.
and think. We're now seeing it playing out versus it all being hidden. So everything is coming to the surface, which is what we want. So in authentic expression, we're not always like it's going to be difficult to accept everything.
Yeah.
But that's the starting point. Authenticity comes from meeting all facets of what exists. And how do we bring love and how do we move out of the fear, the shame, and the guilt, the base frequency? Once we have that opportunity to meet our own fear, to meet our own shame, to meet our own guilt, each person does their own little piece. One drop becomes the whole ocean. So this
Hmm.
is what that building of the new consciousness can look like. And not everyone's going to do it because that's not how the world works. But if there's a certain percentage of people that start to do it, that feel pulled or inclined to contemplate within themselves, to find that authentic expression, to look at their own shadow, to see that, you know, the the world in which we see it now is a collective dreamscape. It's a collective dreamscape. We are reaping what we're sowing right now. And
Yeah.
what I can say from a grounded place for me personally
Hmm.
is the part that I feel that I can play in this right now is to look at my emotional attachment to things and do my own inner work. That in my own authentic expression, do I feel a lot of anger? Yes. Do I feel shame for where we're kind of all at? Yes. Do I feel guilt? I move through those base energies too. But what do I do with it? Am I suppressing it and distracting and eating or numbing? No. I'm looking at it. I'm contemplating it. I'm looking within myself and going, where can I find acceptance? Where can I allow? Where can I find um, that seed of love and be that in the world to counterbalance? Because we're living in a world that is energy and frequency. So the more of us that can operate at and vibrate at this higher frequency, we start to like pull out everything that's in the lower because it can't live underneath the surface anymore. And that's kind of what's happening on a bigger scale. So the more of us that do that internal purification start vibrating at a higher frequency, and then what happens? We start pulling out the denser stuff, but we still have to see it. We have to take accountability for it at a collective level, but not
Yeah.
attach and get hooked and loop in it. We recognize that this is a thought process. It's the way you look at history. Like I'm currently watching the Vikings right now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like things are connecting. So we're in time
Hmm.
loops, you know, and the
Yeah.
conquering and the raiding. It's still happening in 2025, but it's just looks different. You know, people are dressed differently, and you know, it's not as
Yeah.
barbaric, but it's still happening. So
There's some 1939 energy going on down in the States right now. I mean, there's no difference between, you know, Nazis, whatever you want to call them, the brown shirts going through, asking for papers, and ICE doing the same thing. And I mean, yeah, people are going to freak out, and all these pieces are, I think the intention might have been good. Like we're going to get the criminals out of the country and the people that are in that country illegally. I get that. I understand that. That makes sense. But the execution of it is insane. Like
the
I mean,
quantum field, though, we haven't collapsed that timeline yet. So, the quantum
yeah.
field, past, present, future, are all happening at the same time. That in this moment of time, we're taking a level of consciousness that we collectively of humans have not been able um, to mutate that base dense energy into love.
Hmm.
So until we go in and find our own authentic expression of love, and if your baseline right now, if your authentic expression is like fear and anger, in order for it to become something else, there has to be a willingness to sit in that discomfort and explore it and work through it. And that's where people stop. It's not
And
mine.
unfortunately, people feel safe in that. Like a lot of men, especially, feel real safe in their anger. I was one of those guys, you know.
Well, you know how to navigate it. You can go
Yeah.
punch
Well,
someone
and
in the
it's something.
face or
It's
have
at
a
least you know what it is, right? You know
Mhm.
what it is, and my wife thankfully really helped me with that. You when we met and I was in the situation I was in, you really helped me with a lot of things too. And then as we got further into the COVID experience, I got stuck in an anger loop, like you said. And but when I sat down I went to Dollarama and bought a notebook and a pen, went back to the stuff that worked for me 30 years ago, right? In chaos, just write it down, like write it down because I needed to get it out of my body. I was just terrified, and I was scared of the world changing. I was scared of a lot of things. And for a
Yeah,
lot of
your
people,
authentic
especially
expression.
men, a lot of men don't want to feel if we're not trained or we're supposed to be the go out there, kill, bring the meat back to the cave and protect, and all those things are beautiful, and I enjoy that energy too. But if it's driven by fear, you're cutting yourself off emotionally. uh, I think that's where a lot of cancers and sickness comes from is resonating in fear. So whenever I see like war on cancer and all that, I'm like, no, stop, don't do, fuck cancer. I get it, but coming from a place of fear and anger is like a booster rocket that might get you out of a situation. Like it might help you short term to express something or move energy. Just move energy, because if you don't, it can turn into depression, right? Like depression oftentimes is suppressed anger, and it's horrible. But to stay in that resonance of anger is fucking dangerous, and it's very unhealthy. And it really underneath all that is you're scared because it's either fear or love, right? Like, I mean, ultimately it can all distill down to like, am I coming from a place of fear or am I coming from a place of love? And that shit isn't woohoo. It's real. Like if you're dealing with somebody, are you coming from a place of like, I actually want to work this out with you, and I really want to understand what you're saying because I'm not comfortable with how I'm feeling. Whether it's like at work, you're arguing with somebody, or you're in a relationship with someone. It's like, if my intention is to win or be right, you know, that I don't think is coming from a place that's really good for both parties. That's all about you. And I'm guilty of that shit. We all are. But if you can just power in the pause and just pause and go, am I coming from a place of love here? Like, where am I
What would
coming
love
from?
do? What would love do
Right?
in this situation? That's a
Yeah,
good
but
question to ask.
it's hard to put the brakes on in that moment and be like,
Mhm.
because when like go and try and control a scared dog or a scared animal. A scared animal is not going to just stop and course correct in the moment because it's already stuck in a loop of programming. It's already reacting, right? Instead of reflecting. And I think I wish we were taught that when we were kids, like how to, like the difference between reacting and reflecting. And and I mean, I'm 52 years old and I'm still learning this stuff and working this shit like every day, and I fail all the time. And but the point is to keep trying and to keep learning and to be paid. Just simple. You want to see how spiritual you are? I've said this a million times. Go get stuck in traffic, and depending on how much sleep you've had, what kind of mood you're in, where you're going, all that shit, you're going to act very different. How much money is in your bank, right? Like we're not going to talk about the whole money thing and the energy behind that, but I mean, if I was like a multimillionaire, I don't give a shit if I'm stuck in traffic, right?
Mhm.
Because if I'm broke and I'm trying to get to my job to make money to pay the bills with money I don't have, like I mean, and now you're stuck in traffic and some guy cuts you off, it's now that guy or girl or whatever is going to be the target of all of that anger, frustration, and what else? Fear. I'm afraid I don't have enough money for bills. I'm afraid I'm not a good provider. I'm afraid that, you know, my life is falling apart. I'm afraid of losing control. And
So
and then all of a
let's
sudden you're out beating the shit out of somebody on the side of the road or just screaming at them or whatever. Whereas if you're not coming from that place, whatever, let it slide. Fucking let them in. Who cares, right? It's like it's so complicated but so simple all at the same time. But it
and
always comes down to love and fear.
this is a beautiful example now to bring. So you brought the very human, the very base energy to that, and I'm going to bring
Yeah.
a spiritual perspective to this. So when
Yeah.
you look at traffic, when you look at, and remember, I talked about the bands of frequency. So
Yes.
everything inside of you is connected to outside of you. So in a moment when you're caught in traffic, there's a collective energy of stagnation and stuckness that's taking place. The outside is always showing you the inside.
Yeah.
So your authentic nature is going to come out. Are you are you vibrating at a place of acceptance, compassion, or are you vibrating at a place of anger, fear, shame, guilt? And that's going to express itself. So it's like when more times than not, more times when I drive, I have very like I don't know. People are like, "How did you get through all?" Like, there's like I'm like I don't know. I found my way. I get to places because I have a flow. The energy's there. And then when it's not,
Mhm.
so when I get stuck in something, I'm like, what's happening inside of me? How did I, what is this representing for me right now? What area of my life do I feel like there's a stuckness? And what is that internal authentic expression that's coming out as I'm sitting here? And the majority of the time I can be in a neutral space. I'm like, oh, I can play more of my music. Maybe I'll sing, or I'm going to call a friend right now. I've got an extra 20 minutes and I'm vibrating in this space of I've just been allotted an extra 20 minutes for myself. It depends on the mindset and the
Yeah.
frequency. So I'm just
Yeah.
sharing like anyone at any given moment has an opportunity to see who they really are when they're in situations that put pressure on you. So when you're squeezed, who are you? But
Yeah.
yet we're so good as humans to judge and project and blame the behaviors of other people. But when we are squeezed, what's our authentic expression?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I've been taking accountability for within myself because that's the only thing I have responsibility of and control over. When I'm squeezed, how can I respond? And this comes down to neuroscience and nervous system regulation, polyvagal theory. If you're stuck in like a fight or flight and in survival and you're vibrating in that energy of fear, shame or guilt, there will always be this survival instinct. But when you can purify that energy, when you can sit with it within yourself, so you did that beautifully by buying the journal and being honest with yourself. You
Yeah.
sat, you contemplated it, you let it live in you, you found a way, and you didn't. You weren't projecting it out into the world and blaming the world. You made it an internal process.
Mm-hmm.
That is um, a branch of spirituality that allows for us to purify from within.
Yeah.
And we're not doing it simply by going to a religious institution, offering prayer, and saying, "Well, I'm doing the steps." It's You got to really feel it in the body.
Yeah.
Authenticity is when it's felt. Well, I offer prayer. I pray every day because prayer is a sacred form of authentic connection to all that is, regardless of what people might attach that to. Prayer for me is offering gratitude for my life, for this earth, for Mother Earth accepting us, for Father Sky, for there to be this continual place of life, thanking, being of gratitude, and then inviting in protection, inviting in peace and health and love for myself first.
Yeah.
Then I move that out to my family. Then I move that out to my community. And then I move that out to the world. So it's like a ripple. But it can't. So if we were to ask the listeners today, do you love yourself? Do you accept yourself? If that's not there, then look at how you're judging and blaming the world around you.
Yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
it back. Bring it back.
Yeah. And again, it's like, man, like prayer. I remember, I don't know, I think Pete Bernard said it. I heard he's an Algonquin shaman here in Ottawa. Great guy, really, really cool, interesting human being, doing good work. But I think he said, emotion is the prayer. I heard him speaking, and I thought, man, like I had to kind of sit with it, and I thought, well, because I like praying, but I don't pray in a religious sense. It's just praying to me is kind of like intention setting. If we're going to break it down, like change the word prayer, because if somebody's anti-religion or spirituality, on prayer, fuck whatever, God, fuck you.
Hmm.
No, intention setting. Okay, so again, if you're sick or someone you love is sick, let's say you're in the hospital and they're in surgery or whatever, a lot of people unfortunately been in that position where you're, if it's your child or someone you love, you're riding this crazy roller coaster of fear and all these. But if you sit down and try and focus on, and this is where it's hard, focus on, like, when you pray, the emotion is the prayer. So the universe doesn't give a shit about words, in my opinion. It's the feeling.
Hmm.
So if the feeling is one of desperation and fear, oftentimes that's what you're met with. And people are saying, people will say, well, how the fuck, my kids, in surgery or whatever, like, how the fuck am I supposed to? Well, that's the trick. No one ever said it's easy,
Allow.
and no one is an expert in it. I don't care who you are. There, Panache Desai, I think his name is, or maybe I'm getting that wrong. Incredible guy. He talked about how he was this spiritual guy, and Oprah was trying to make him into the next Deepak Chopra, but then his daughter got into like a really serious medical situation, and all that shit was out the window, and he had to basically get on his knees and surrender and be like, I am not in control of this, but this is what I want for my daughter. This is what I want for myself. And he basically tried to get into that feeling of of everything going well. And some people say, okay, well, that's naive, or you're just trying to be hopeful. Well, okay. I mean, I used to say hope is a beggar, but it's not. It's trying to, like, if I'm going to choose the moment I'm in or the feeling I'm in, my wife reminds me to remember this when I'm in traffic or whatever. I drive like 10 hours a day. So I'm always around people and chaos in the streets, whatever. And maybe that is a reflection of my head. But going back to this original thing, okay, we're in the hospital. You're waiting on a diagnosis. Well, in that moment, I can freak out. I can be angry. I can be scared. I can be fucking all those things, right? Or I can close my eyes and just try and feel, inhabit the feeling of everything's all right. And even if that buys you like a moment of peace in your body, maybe your white cells work a little better. Maybe your body relaxes and it can do what it's designed to do, which is heal itself. So to me, this shit is fascinating because there's so many goddamn levels. And there's
Mm.
so many things at work. And that's why I think it's easier just to turn it off, smoke a joint, and watch Netflix. Because if you really start getting into this shit and diving into it, it's like, it's a lot, you know? It's a lot. But just keeping it, even when you bring it back to like, am I coming from a place of love and fear, and why? Well, if I don't get good sleep and I've had too much caffeine and I haven't had enough to eat, and the phone keeps ringing because I'm a building operator. My phone rings and it's just problems. Either somebody has died and a family needs my help to go, do the funeral, or at work, it's something has gone wrong. It's just because my vibration is people pleaser. I'm the helper. I'm going to make everything okay. And it's funny as an adult to realize, holy shit, why am I doing? I don't know how many times I said to my wife, why am I doing this? Like, my job is just complaints. The funeral stuff is completely different, but it is intense in its own way. And I'm rambling, but the point is, all that shit filters down to like your original kind of frequency that you've been your original programming, right? And then you got to say, well, fuck, like what would it be like to just have everything you need, or be in that place of just like, I have everything I need, right? That's surrender. Or And I think that's just sort of how you start to get there, is by just surrendering into the moment. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm pissed off. All right. And noticing it and feeling it in your body. Okay, I'm pissed off. This is what pissed off feels like. Or fuck, I'm scared because I can't control this. Right. And cancer is a weird one because it's not like it's something in your body. And what caused that? Your head just starts to take you on this ride. So, but at the end of the day, all we have is our response to it. Okay, well, however I got myself into the situation, whether I created it or not, if I do take responsibility, that gives me the power back. Well, why would you want to take responsibility for something horrible happening? Because fuck, it feels a lot better than being I'm a victim of circumstance, right? But anyways, I kind of got lost in the weeds there, but um,
You kind of didn't, because I want to reflect something back to you.
mhm,
When you were sharing and you were saying, like, why do I go out there, and the constant thing of complaints, and when you were sharing that, and this is what happens when we can vibrate at different frequencies. So when I connect with you, um, or anyone, the practice that I hold is to allow myself to vibrate into my like my higher heart frequencies. So I'm not having this conversation with you isn't rooted in fear or shame or guilt. It's rooted in love. It's rooted in
yeah,
connection. It's rooted in community. And so when you were speaking, because I have that higher frequency, I can see the role that you're playing in a much expanded view. That's the evolution of our consciousness that we're waking up to, right? It's expanding
yeah,
our perception. And what I saw when you were describing what you do is your heart is so pure, and you I don't see it as a people pleasing. What I see is you being of service, and every person that you go to, the interaction that you have with them, I see um, these little gold filaments of light coming out of you and just sprinkling them. Now, that is a
mhm,
symbolic representation to me, that's being shown to me to reflect back to you that you've been chosen. So to be in that space, in that moment, to cause something like a ripple that you may never understand. That's the great mystery. But you've been asked to
mhm.
be in that place, and your life's work, like what you do in your practical day to day, um, is is the means for you to get to that person at that time. How does that
Yeah.
feel when I say that? And
Oh,
look at
100.
what
Yeah,
Luna's doing.
absolutely.
So she's feeling the truth of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and it's like, it's I think you can be ultimately, when you're out there, like, well, my day to day, I love making people laugh because it makes them feel better, right? So I'm doing stand up all the time, right? Like, you don't have to be a stand up comedian to have an impact like a stand up comedian has on people. They just do it in a room. It's focused, it's gathered. I'm going to make you laugh on Monday night at 7. Well, that's great, but you can do that all the time. I mean, I use comedy to disarm people when the phone rings and the guy's pissed because there's no heat in the warehouse and it's -20, or there's pipes exploding or whatever. And once I get there, it's all coming from, like, I'm taking care of business. I'm being a professional. I've got all the trades on the way or whatever. But when I'm there, it's always humor. It's always comedy. And I always find a way to disarm people with it. And and that's something I learned from my dad and his brothers and my mother's family, and just being around funny people that filter the hard shit through comedy and levity, right? And it's just lightning. We're just bringing the frequency up, right? Because he's down here raging out, and I'm coming. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I've made a phone call. This guy's coming. Oh, it goes up a little bit, and then I realized that person, a lot of the times, they're filtering whatever's going on at home through whatever's going on at work. Like, we're all just trying to figure the shit out,
Yeah.
and in the moment we're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel that, I think we're all meant to come here and be of service. Like, you see anybody that's made a ton of money, once they've bought all the shiny things and the houses and they've had the experiences and the vacations and all that shit, or not shit, all that beautiful stuff. A lot of times, the ones that seem the happiest are the ones that find a way to be of service, truly. And it's not buying
Philanthropy.
a supercar. It's they build schools, or they fuck it, whatever it is that they're helping other people. That's where they're happiest, if they're not psychopaths, I guess. But to me, like the what's his name, Richard Branson, people like that, they're out there. There's people that do that kind of stuff because they're being of service. You're here to help other people. We're here to help each other, and I think that is coming around again.
But that's our
Um,
authentic nature, Pete. Like
yeah,
when we, that is our, like our true divine nature is
yeah,
to be of service.
yeah,
But when we pile onto that speck of light that I feel like we spoke about on the last call is
yeah,
so coated with like plaque and layers of ancestral trauma and
yeah.
experiences that have we haven't sat with it yet. A
Hmm.
person hasn't gone inside of themselves and purified and polished, and our ancestral pain keeps getting passed forward through the womb of the mother, through the eggs. Like, but I read something and I was like, wow, like so amazing. But I lived inside of my grandmother because when the egg that was coming for me was already in my mom, was in my grandmother, and there's like this passing down of this. So the feeling that my grandmother had lives inside of me.
Oh yeah,
So
that's. You want
there's
to go
like
down a
this.
deep, dark, crazy well?
That could be
Yeah,
another call. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to
That's
branch
yeah.
us off
We're
today,
gonna we're
but
gonna park that one because that's a whole other conversation of what you literally inherit when you're born.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like this is like a really nice place for us to like really seal this in. It's
Yeah,
ha- like when we purify and work through our own fear, shame, and guilt, and can begin to invite that higher vibration, like that higher frequency of allowing and acceptance and love and gratitude and appreciation into our world, the way in which the outside world happens, there's still going to be things that piss us off. Like I've got teenage kids in a blended family. We've always got stuff coming at us, you know.
yeah,
But it's like, where is my way in which I can best show up
yeah,
to support and model behavior? And that is the greatest gift that we can give humanity right now in our collective evolution. Can you be what you want to see in the world? Can you see that within yourself?
yeah. And are you going to give yourself the time and grace to sit down and be honest with yourself about being miserable or upset or angry, or
Yeah.
and just simply write it down? Like, boys, I'm talking to you specifically because women tend to be better at this stuff. To sit down and just journal, write, be honest with yourself, and then you can be uncomfortable by yourself. You don't have to, talk about your feelings in front of a person. Practice it with yourself first with a journal, and then figure out, well, what a how, okay, I've identified why I'm angry, why I'm upset, whatever. I've got it out of me. Now, how do I move that into the world. Well, now it's like about being taking a breath and not reacting from that anger because you know what it is. So I'm not going to react from that. I'm going to take a breath and see if something happens that's different, you know? And you know, I think that's why you see those videos of people like helping homeless people, but they film it all. Like the intention is good, but like there's something really weird about that. And I don't want to get into a big discussion, but being authentic, like coming from the right place and being of service, sometimes gets tainted with in the execution. You know, like you can do the right thing when no one's looking. You should be doing the right thing when no one's looking, and you shouldn't be doing it because you need, you know, exposure. Will that maybe, I think the counter argument to that is always, well, if people see me doing this, they're going to do it too. I think we all know what's right and wrong, and I think that most people will do the right thing if, you know, given the chance. And also there's the other side of that where you might be taking that person's dignity by filming that experience. Like they might not be in a place to even defend their own, you know, like they're just so happy to maybe have money, they're not thinking about being on camera or whatever, but maybe someone they love is watching that. Like I think it, being authentic is a really slippery slope, and this is obviously part one of another discussion we're going to have, but it's to wrap it up, being authentic is finding your compass inside yourself that feels true, that's not wrapped in anger or fear, like underneath all that, your true north, let's call it, which is, I think, for most people coming from a place of love that's not touched or has not been tainted by your upbringing, your experience, or whatever filters you're going through. Underneath all of that shit, all that conditioning in your heart of hearts, which you can get to through journaling, meditation, all that stuff, getting to that quiet place underneath or inside the deepest part of you, that little light that can never be, that awareness that is always there, that will always be there, that's ageless, that's timeless, that place, if you can get there and operate from there, that to me is authenticity. Would you agree with that, Bahia?
Yeah, I feel like that was a really beautiful way to summarize it. And if I were to add a layer to that for the
Yeah.
listeners, would be um, to begin to slowly, because if we move too fast in unearthing something, like bringing something to the surface, like someone might feel really inspired after this listening and go, oh, I'm gonna get in there. And if it goes too fast too soon, it could fragment someone. So what I want to add in as a layer is to allow for this to be happening in parallel to your day to day life. So just invite it to be like through curiosity, awareness, like bring it into your life with ease and with grace so that you can begin to build safety in your nervous system. So it's like today, it's safe for me to feel my anger and to give it healthy outlets of expression. So perhaps a person makes a list of some of the ways that feel safe for them to discharge that energy that's in the body. Journaling, yelling in their car. I've yelled in my car so many times. I've yelled in the forest. I've gone into the forest. I've cried. I've yelled. I've taken huge boulders and I've picked them up and I've like put them over my head and I've thrown them in water just to watch them
Oh,
like
why does that
go
feel
in.
so good?
It's discharging energy. So I want to bring that layer for people. It's like if if you can trust yourself enough to begin with one small little act of self reflection, that is going to be like that first seed that when planted and taken care of, will slowly start to begin and build a garden. Because what I will share from personal experience is when I went in too fast, too hard, because I was excited and I was motivated and driven, I actually short circuited my nervous system. And
Yeah.
it actually brought me back because it was too much too fast. And I am still learning patience. My energy likes to move fast. Once it can see a potential, it wants to get there now. And
Yeah.
part of the what I've been working through, like over, and the cancer taught me that was like, it's relax. Your life is now. Where are you now? And wherever I am now, it's I'm in this process of something is dying and something is birthing. And
Yeah.
that's just the natural cyclical nature of life. So if you can allow for you to be in that continual state of shedding and birthing, shedding and birthing, and find the path. Like for us, I use a lot of humor too. It's a great way. It's the trickster, it's the sacred trickster medicine.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
allows for us to transmute energy. Like you're a medicine man, like in full right. And your human suit, your meat suit that you call it, is
Mm-hmm.
disguised in the practical world as a maintenance person.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of you, I see the golden essence and your earth angel wings and the purity of your heart and your intention. But the humility that you've brought into this world to bring it through in it is beautiful. Like every single person, even let's just take it back to the people at Tim Hortons or at a coffee shop when you are a regular and you're greeted with, "Hey, hun, how's your day? Oh, you
Yeah.
want your medium double double?" That is divine light right there. That
Yeah.
person warms you, opens your heart. A
Yeah.
cashier, um, the custodian of a school every night comes in and makes sure you walk into something clean and renewed. They're cleansing the energy. Like let's start to look at things from those higher frequencies of acts of service,
Yeah.
and let's flip the paradigm. Let's shift it and honor the people that are in the day to day serving in ways that we often just,
Yeah. Yeah. Practical spirituality, right? Like smiling at people, being, just, I mean, it comes down to intention. If you hold the door open for someone, they don't say thank you. Well, that was not about them. That was about you if you get pissed off, right? But uh, I'll tell you, folks, another good coping tool, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And when you talked about going too fast, Bahia, I've been training forever. I love the sport. It's wonderful because it's a complete, uh, to me, it's like, it's a way to physically do the untangling of what's going on in your head and heart. So when you're on the mats and you're training with people, you're problem solving, but you're in that moment. And when you talked about going too fast, when I'm training with white belts, brand new people, they're so excited, and it's the same thing. They're going 1,000 miles an hour. They don't know what they're doing. They're grabbing, they're spazzing out. It's called, the white belt spaz. Anybody that trains jujitsu knows what the white belt spaz is, the spazziness. They're out of control. They want to win. They want to just do jujitsu.
Mhm.
But I tell them, fucking slow down, man.
Yeah.
Like breathe, right? Like where's your connection? Like what are you making a connection to? Where are your grips? Like jujitsu is powerful because it's a spiritual practice. I don't care. Yeah, you learn how to mess people up physically, but it's one of the most powerful spiritual practices I've ever done because it puts me in the moment. It teaches me to slow down. It teaches me to breathe. It teaches me to focus on physical connection. Am I
Yeah.
closing space, or am I taking away space, or am I gaining space? Because the situation calls on you to do different things. So when we're talking about jumping into spirituality and getting all excited about it, slow is fast. It's like loading a horse onto a trailer. When I worked on farms, I had an old farmer tell me, slow is fast. You
Hmm.
know, you're all freaking out. That horse is reading your energy. He didn't use those words, but in farmer wisdom, saying slow is fast means you try and rush that horse onto that trailer, it's not going to go. But if you lead by example, like you said, take your time, you give that horse the energetic frequency to lock into, it's going to trust you and it's going to follow you into the trailer, right? You
Hmm.
can't force it into a trailer. Go push on a horse's ass, right? You're not going to move 1,000 pounds no matter how angry you are or
Yeah.
how badly you want that horse on the trailer. And the more amped up you get, the more that horse is going to freeze. So
Yep.
I should just do like that farmer podcast and have and they're dying out, these old farmers, but those are some of the best spiritual teachers I ever met because it's so practical, right?
Yeah.
Slow is fast. Like that one statement is like you could talk about it for an hour, what the hell it actually means. But anyway, once again, my God, the time flies when I talk to you, Bahia. So we're doing it again, and it's going to be in the next couple of weeks because we
Okay.
have a lot to talk about. And I really, really love talking with you and listening to you and and I always think about it after, stuff you say, and I discuss it with people that have seen it. And I just want to thank you for taking time to do this because, man, I think it's important, and I just love talking to you. I think you just bring such a nice energy to the world, and it's I think people will really enjoy it. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Pete.
Tell
And
people.
I'm gonna let you know that like whatever you see in me is you. Like you are doing that very thing all the time.
Well,
Just
well,
sharing
thank
the
you.
light. So
The old
thank
me would
you.
push that off, but I'll say thank you. I
That's it.
appreciate it. I
Oh, we're
appreciate it.
modeling. We're modeling the new human in the space where, we're coming in, we're having an authentic conversation, we're sharing through our own practical experience, and we are, even though we see it differently, like I'm listening to you using the horse analogy, and I'm like, yeah, that would be a Pete thing to do. Whereas I would use the analogy of a rose unfurling, and
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just,
masculine, feminine, whatever, right? Like it's just, but I mean, that's a real
you can't,
experience I've
you can't
had.
hit a
Like,
horse's ass. You can't.
yeah,
I just like,
you know what I mean? Like it's true though. I mean, because we only ever do, or like I can only express things through the context of lived experience, or at least, you know, I like to talk about what I know because then I have a little bit more knowledge about it. Like I could talk about other things, and like my wife laughs at me because I'll mansplain something that I have no goddamn clue what I'm talking about, right? Or I heard it, like for instance, the cedar trees. Somewhere in my head, I got it that it's deer that were eating our cedar trees, and I was like totally trying to convince. No, it's abs. And she's like, the confidence you have. Like if you had that confidence about money or whatever, we'd be millionaires because it's total bullshit. But I'm like, no, absolutely, right? Maybe that's a guy thing or whatever, but she'll research it and find out the truth of it and be like, well, it's actually this, and not come at me like I'm right, you're wrong, but just like, hey, by the way, that cedar tree thing, well, it's actually this. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, cool. I was wrong. Then we laugh about it because she'll be like, you were pretty confident. I'm like, yeah, well, fuck, you got to be confident. But anyway, but yeah, how do people find you? I don't think I asked last time.
that's fine. Just website universalhuman.ca.
Oh, my mic just fell apart. Universalhuman.ca. That's a pretty good one. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then from there they can do the all
Yeah,
your socials
yeah,
around
my
that, right?
socials are there. Yeah. And I
Okay.
always like trust in that. But I want to share like one little golden nugget. Whoever
Yeah,
stayed
yeah.
to the end, this is for you. Um, Something that I've really been contemplating. And again, for me, life is a series of contemplations. And that could be, again, another call. We can go a little bit deeper into what that means. Um, but in this contemplation, I look at, for example, the commodity of money, and let's just leave people with this thing. And I've been working through that energy for years, and it's tied ancestrally. There's karmic debts, and it's an intrinsic conversation. But one piece of golden nugget that I'm going to leave for all of us is that something that clicked for me is that when you feel safe to receive, so when your nervous system allows for you, and receiving in all forms, so by you receiving my compliment, you expanded the safety in your nervous system to receive. And in the safety of receiving, what you do is you make space for more love, more health, more money. And money, in its energetic sense, is a commodity, it's an energy. And when you bring your authentic expression towards it, like if you were to write a letter to money, an honest letter to money, what are you going to say? And look at the vibration, like look at the frequency in which you hold that energy. And simply by shifting it into a higher vibration, into a space of love. And we have a lot of unconscious beliefs tied into money. Um, and as you, slow and steady, you just slowly build in, by receiving a compliment, by allowing someone to buy you a coffee. All these little things start to open up the safety in your nervous system, which then allows for your bank account to just naturally increase. And I've been doing this. Um, like, quick story, I bought a home during the big thing where you have to, I paid an extra 140,000 for my house. I did because we're in bidding wars. Okay. And
Holy
so
shit.
big mortgage, but I was like, no, I can do this. And so the way in which I looked at it was just like, yes, I had to borrow some money too, and paying that off. But in that space, what happened is our economy started to jump a little bit, and I was in a variable mortgage, and so the interest rate went up to 6 point something, and it was 1 point. So the bank was calling me all the time, and
Oh,
I knew that this was like something I had to work through. So I felt the fear, moved through the shame and the guilt, and when I started to shift that frequency up into my heart, into like allowing acceptance and trust, I know the power of my energy. So I would use meditation, and I just focused, and I was just talking to money, and I was just like, I love you. Like I need you right now. And I looked at my mortgage account, the balance owing, and then I just started visualizing it going down. I'm like, I don't really care how we do it. Just let it happen. Let's do this. And I just felt really excited about it. And I just kept focusing on that. Within 2 years, I've put, I, I want to say 20, like 40,000 on my principal. I don't know. It's flowing in. So I'm just like, bam, there we go. And I get excited. I go to the bank. I'm like, pow, like get off my back. And it's like the relationship shifted for me. But I was put in a place where I had to meet my fear, my guilt, and my shame around money, and then mutate it into love and acceptance. And let's be friends. Let's just work together, because it's just moving from one place to another. So I just wanted to put that in there,
why the
kind of
hell
like
did
as a
you have to
little.
start that conversation now, Bahia? God damn it.
I
Like,
wanted to help
I
you.
have all the questions in the world now, but no, like, honestly, let's
Let's
get
put a
into that
pin in
next
it.
time.
That's our next call.
Our next call, we're going to talk about money, but also just the wanting of something, right? Because
Yeah,
it applies
receive
to
it.
everything. It's just money
Yeah.
is it's such a big thing that we can all relate to. But I yeah, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
I I remember I don't know what it was. It was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I was sitting there having a coffee. Nobody was awake yet, and I was thinking about. Uh, I don't know how it came up, but it was like there was an aspect of me that was still trying to protect me, angry, and I can't remember the context of it. I was just sitting there having a coffee, and I was thinking about something, and then I just kind of had this vision or this image in my head of this version of me that was like trying to protect me, and it was coming, but it was angry, and it was like having a really crazy bodyguard that fucked up everything in your life. Like a nice pretty girl tries to talk to you, and the bodyguard fucking shoves her back.
Your
Somebody
protector.
comes up to try and give you money, the bodyguard shoves him back because and he's yelling at me, I'm just trying to protect you. And I remember in that moment I said, like, you can't I your job is done, man. I don't need you anymore, right?
Mm.
There's an
Yeah.
aspect of us, or that was an aspect of me that was very. It had a job at one time,
Yeah.
but its job is done. It's like a soldier coming back from war. It just wants to keep being a soldier, but like you got to go work at Home Depot. You don't. It's a different energy. And I remember in that moment, something in me said to it, that version, listen, man, I love you. Thank you for everything you've done.
Yeah.
But you got to go.
Yeah.
You can't stay here. And then this version of myself, the energy of it shifted into like a little boy energy. And he said, can I go with you?
Mm.
I promise I'll be quiet. And I started crying. And I was like, fuck, I'm just trying to have coffee at 6 in the morning. And all of a sudden but to me, that was like such a powerful experience. So you just inspired me by that. Like I think about money,
Yeah.
but I've never written a letter to money.
Yeah.
I talk about abundance, and my wife is a hell of a lot smarter and more advanced in this. Like she's more like you, where she has an emotional relationship with it, and she's a goddamn wizard with money. Like I bring it home when I bring home, and she keeps this alive. And fuck, man, I love her, but I don't have that relationship, and I don't think a lot of people do. So I'm really excited, and you just inspired me. Like I'm literally gonna go and probably write a letter to money.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
so
this,
thank you.
like, we're in
That's
a,
super cool. And we're gonna talk.
yay.
Let's so next time we're gonna lead off with that. And just that whole concept of the energy around abundance and all that sort of thing. Because,
That's good.
like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have like a, oh, this is like, try and clickbait people with manifest millions. No, let's have a fucking honest discussion about what it is, right?
Hmm.
And
Or
how
what
we
is
interact
abundance?
with it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's remember that. But thank you, Bahia Askri, everybody. To whoever is watching this video, I know we kind of fly all over the map, and it's maybe not the most polished, but goddamn it, it's always real, and that's all I care about is that it's a real conversation that people can take things from, and then
Hmm.
bring that into their lives, and maybe have conversations at Tim Hortons or whatever, wherever you are, just about this stuff, because I think that you know together we can really we obviously affect our own
It's a
little worlds,
ripple.
and then as a
It's a ripple.
collective.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having this conversation with me, Bahia, and I can't wait to have another one. And now I'm going to go write a goddamn letter to money. But thank you so much, and folks, for those of you that are taking the time to if you sat through all of this, you're amazing. I hope you got something good out of it. I'm Pete. This is the Celebration Machine, and thank you so much for your time. We will see you again, Bahia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, folks.
Mhm.